In this week's video, I'll be restoring and reinforcing my E30 front subframe. In a previous video, I dismantled the complete subframe with the struts off, the control arms off, the rack off, and I'm slowly going to start restoring them one by one. So next up is the subframe. It was in pretty poor condition, but nothing structurally anything wrong with it, so I was happy to kind of carry on and use this as a restoration project. The first step, once removed, was to get it sent off for sandblasting. Due to the size of my cabinet and the power of it, I thought it would be much quicker and easier to get it sent off. The reinforcement kit that I purchased was from Born2drift. I'll add it on the link in the description. It was around the £25 mark. It came with the engine mounts, the control arm, anti-roll bar, and then some other side for the engine mounts. So to start with, I'm simply going to wire wheel down the area where I'm going to be welding, or at least going to be spraying. Once that's done, use some UPOL weld through primer, spray the areas that aren't going to be able to be touched with the paint, and then we can look to start welding. I held it in with a bolt and a M10 bolt and nut just to make sure it's secure for when I'm tacking in, and that can be removed. Now I am just a novice welder with not a crazy amount of experience, but I found this task to be actually quite simple. Using a thicker material is much easier than working ever on body panels. What I found with the control arm reinforcement is that it fouled on one of the welds, so somebody just ground that down to make sure it fits. Then it's as simple as repeating the process. Start with a wire weighing down the area, UPOL weld through primer the areas you can't get to, and you can weld them in, so that'll be on the control arms, the anti-roll bars, and the other side of the engine mount. Now with the lower engine mount reinforcement, I found that it was slightly misshapen. It turns out this is quite a common thing. So what I found is if I could weld it at the top and then manipulate it with a hammer into place, I felt that was a much better position. With everything welded in, I just took the wire wheel, just cleaned down any rusty areas or any debris, and then I give it a quick brush down, and then it's ready for paint. Due to how smooth this paint sets, it can be very susceptible to debris, dust or anything, so you really want to make sure that you clean down the area, whether that's with a compressor and blow it down, or I simply just use a brush and brush off what I can. So the paint I'll be using is POR15 Rust Preventative Permanent Coating. It's a brush on gloss black finish, and it's known to be kind of a kind of do-it-yourself kit instead of having to get it sent off for powder coating, which I do prefer. I do kind of prefer to do as much as I can at home. So with the surface prepped, I simply poured some into a plastic throwaway bucket and got started. It's a simple brush on application. You can paint it straight onto metal. The cleaner the better, and the smoother the better, definitely. What I've found is you can't go too crazy with it, otherwise you're going to start making runs and it starts, and once it's set, you're really stuck. I decided to paint this in two sections. Following the seam round, I paint the top side and then the bottom side. One benefit is that the curing time of this POR15 is huge, so if you're going to be painting one side, you've got a lot of time to start doing little touch-ups. But obviously that means if you want to do the other side, you'd have to give it some hours, so I gave it 12 hours until I did the other side. As you can see, just after one coat on one side, the finish is amazing. It kind of looks pretty much ceramic. With the next day weight, flipped it over and started on the next side. Same again, following that seam, making sure not to drop any underneath the seam and cause drips. As I started to get more confident with the painting, you could see the finish improving, just always remembering that due to the long cure time, you've always got time for touch-ups, so there's no need to speed. And finally with the painting, make sure you get into every single little crevice, just to make sure there's no chance of corrosion in the future. And here we have the finished product. I'm really happy with how it's turned out in the end. There's a few things that I want to look to do a bit better next time. There's a few little marks, I'm just going to chip them down. And also, I didn't let it dry quick enough, so just dab some on there. Other than that, it's come out to a really nice coat. This is about 1 day after both its coats. And as you can see, it's really clean. So I'm really happy with that as an alternative to powder coating. You just kind of keep everything in house, and it still gives a pretty good finish. Luckily, all the kind of jobs that I did with the welding aren't too obvious anymore. So got them, control arm, the engine mount, and then the anti-roll bar. Yeah, thanks for watching.